I've heard a lot of horror stories over the years of major purchases that retirees made that they later wish that they had not made, and unfortunately cost them thousands of dollars and sometimes even tens of thousands of dollars to unwind. So in today's video, I'm going to go through an article by AARP that lists the top 10 big purchases retirees often regret. Number one on their list is a boat. And they say the two happiest days for a boat owner or a small airplane owner are the day that they buy the boat and the day that they sell the boat. Now, I should say, I'm not putting any judgment in here. I'm just sharing what other retirees have reported that they regret buying. You've worked hard for your money, and it's okay to splurge, and it's okay to spend money on your wish list that you've waited 30, 40 years for. More often than not, people do not spend enough money early in their retirement, and then later they regret it. However, I just want you to choose wisely and go in with your eyes open. So that's a boat. I have a friend that has a boat, and he uses it all the time, and for him, it was a great investment. Okay, the second one is resort living. And by this, I think AARP means like a timeshare. You go on vacation, it's a nice place, they have a beautiful pool, a beautiful lobby, a nice townhouse that you're staying in with room for your family. And it's a super fun vacation. And then people say, wouldn't it be nice if we had a timeshare? Wouldn't it be nice if this was a retirement community and you moved in there? But what works for a week or 2 weeks, 5 years later, you might look back and regret. Okay, the third one are what AARP says is recreational vehicles, RVs. And by this, I think they mean the travel RVs, where people travel around the United States. Again, if you're going to use it, if this is part of your plan that for 2 years, your first 2 years of retirement or anytime during your go-go years of retirement, you're really looking forward to traveling. You've always wanted to do it. Then, it's fine, but try to measure twice and cut once. Make your decision wisely. Unfortunately, even with new RVs, they can have maintenance problems, and it's kind of a challenging warranty situation because they're usually built on the chassis, made by a major manufacturer like Mercedes or Ford or somebody like that. And then they're converted into an RV. So when you have a problem, I've heard it can be difficult to get things fixed under warranty. So measure twice, cut once, choose wisely, and maybe think about renting first. Okay, number 4 in this AARP article are dream houses. Many of us, my dream house in retirement, when my kids left for college and then started their adult life. My wife and I, when the kids were younger, were in a larger house, and both my wife and I were on the same page. We were really looking forward to having less square footage to have to take care of, to have to maintain, to have to clean, a smaller lawn to have to mow, that type of thing. But some people are thinking, they're going to build their dream home. And if you can afford it, again, I'm going to get to this planning aspect later. If you can afford it and it's not a stretch, that's fine. But if you're going to put your future financial security at risk, you want to know that. The next one is giving to adult children. And this is a big one that I saw as a retirement when I was working as a retirement advisor and what I used to tell my clients is, it's just human nature that we want to help our kids get an advanced degree or help our kids buy their first house or buy a nicer car as opposed to maybe the beater that they're driving now. But you know what? They have loans to go to college. They're called student loans. They have loans to buy a car. They're called mortgages. They have, loans to buy a house. They're called mortgages. Loans to buy a car. They're called car loans. But you know what kind of loan there isn't one? There is no such thing as a retirement loan. So we need to be careful. Again, if you've got excess and you can afford to do it, and you're sure it's actually going to help your child's life improve, as opposed to maybe enabling some bad behaviors that are hard to address. And we want to avoid that, obviously. We want to help our kids become into the best version of an adult that they can be. Okay, number 6 is related to the resort living, which is timeshares. Timeshares are designed to be sold versus purchased. right? They typically tend to be high pressure. There are secondary platforms like in eBay. I don't think you can buy timeshares on eBay, but a platform like eBay, different platform, where you can buy timeshares secondhand. So if you're tempted to do that, think about looking at these platforms where you can buy them secondhand as an alternative, because the timeshares have high commissions for those high pressured salespeople that are trying to convince you to buy them, and maybe you can bypass that commission. They timeshare values tend to decrease pretty quickly after you buy them. Okay, number 7, it doesn't surprise me that this is on AARP's list. It's fancy cars, sports cars, expensive cars. And if cars are your thing, as you look at this list of 10 things, it's probably okay if 1 or 2 things on this list are your thing. And that's how you want to spend your excess money. But, to try to do all of these things, I think is going to break most of us. And the important thing is, does it bring you joy and can you afford it? And if you can't afford it, maybe think about renting it, or maybe one of your friends has a fancy car. I have a friend that's done well in life, and he's got a Lamborghini, and he's always said, "Hey, Azul, I want you to borrow the car for the weekend and just see what it's like to drive it." And I've always said no, because I'm nervous driving a $250,000, a $300,000 car. But you know what? He did talk me into doing it for like 6 hours one Saturday, and my wife and I took it out. And you can rent fancy cars as well. And it was a great experience. But you know what? One day was enough for me. Okay, the next one. This one surprised me. In AARP says, be careful buying pricey musical instruments. And what they're saying there is oftentimes we look back nostalgically at our youth and saying, I used to be in a band, I used to play the guitar, I used to play the trumpet, whatever. And it was a great time in our life. And AARP's warning in the article is, it's that camaraderie that we miss versus playing the instrument. Okay, the next one is hot tubs. That was one that surprised me on the list. I think hot tubs can be a relatively affordable luxury, particularly if you get one that's well built. I have bought used hot tubs myself, previously owned hot tubs. That was well maintained, that was well insulated, so it didn't cost a lot of electricity. And I thought it was a good investment for me, but I'm going through AARP's list. And then they talk about impulse buying online. And that's one of the ones that top my list, is buying things that don't bring us joy. And so I'd encourage you to think about over the past 12 months. What are the things that brought you joy that you still remember? I mean, it's interesting with my clients. I used to ask them, write down the things that you've bought over the past 12 months. And most people, when it comes to their budget, are really good about their mortgage, their car payment, things like that. But then, there's a lot of spending on stuff, things that show up in cardboard boxes on our front porch. And many, many times people can't even remember it, but yet it's $4,000 or $5,000 a year or more on stuff. And I tell my clients, think about the memories, think about the adventures, think about the experiences, think about the relationships you could have fostered for that $5,000, $7,000, whatever you're spending on stuff. And it's something that we're all guilty of, but I wanted to share that. So how do you get around this? I think you come up with a plan. And you come up with a plan so you know how much excess that you have that you can spend, and then feel comfortable spending that. But it's important to have confidence in your plan. If you don't have confidence, you won't be comfortable actually spending that money. And that's why I like the software made by Bolden. You can find Bolden at this QR code here or in the link in the description. It's software designed for people like you and I, super easy to use, to help us come up with a financial plan, to help us reach our financial goals, and once we're ready to retire, to come up with a financial plan and think about how much you can spend each year. If you like this video, the next video of mine that I'd encourage you to watch is this one here that talks about why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. Thanks for watching this video. Bye-bye.